I think my mother did exactly the right thing. I think it's absolutely extraordinary. Hollywood's bright lights were supposed to welcome Princess Anne with open arms. But somewhere between Windsor and the West Coast, everything took a shocking, chaotic turn. We need to make it easier for the monarch to just simply strip the titles of people that they don't think are representing them in an appropriate manner. A mysteriously delayed flight, a sudden change in paperwork, and whispers rippling through palace corridors, all pointed to one stunning name, Camilla. And I can't remember anybody except the Queen being there. And when the truth reached King Charles, she becomes my Queen consort. His anger reportedly shook the very walls of Clarence House. What would drive the Queen consort to sabotage Anne's moment on the world stage? And why now of all times, Camilla's secretive phone call? The atmosphere inside Buckingham Palace had always felt calm and dignified. But lately, something small and uneasy hung in the air, almost like the first soft breeze that warned people a storm might be coming. Princess Anne, the steady and dependable sister of King Charles, was getting ready for an important trip to Hollywood. She had faced the public eye many times before, but this time was different. This wasn't just another polite royal visit or a routine appearance. While in Sydney, Princess Anne is expected to attend several Remembrance Day engagements at Hyde Park and the Victoria Barracks. It was a real moment for her to speak openly about the humanitarian issues and the animal welfare causes she had supported passionately and quietly for many years. Our attitudes to the horsemeat trade thick might, and the value of horsemeat may have to change partly, because if that's true, then in his study, King Charles sat behind a large stack of official papers, but his attention had drifted far from his royal duties. His mind kept returning to Anne ever since they were children. Anne had always stood out. She was strong-willed, independent, and once she made a decision, no one could change her mind. She never chased fame or attention, but her honesty, hard work, and devotion to charitable causes naturally earned her respect from people around the world. This upcoming visit to the center of the film industry, where millions look for inspiration, made Charles deeply proud. He imagined her carrying her message of kindness to a place known for shaping global trends. His eyes landed on an old photograph sitting on his desk. It showed two young children, a brother and a sister, smiling happily together. The memory softened his face with a gentle smile, but a quiet knock on the door pulled him back to the present. Camilla walked in smelling softly of jasmine. She approached him and placed a light hand on his shoulder, her expression warm, as if trying to sweep away his worries. "Charles, I just heard Anne talking about her trip to America," she said in a smooth, pleasant tone. "She seems full of life, absolutely wonderful." Camilla appeared in every outward way to be the perfect queen consort. She understood Charles well. She always seemed to know when he needed comfort, and she had a habit of appearing right when he needed someone by his side. But beneath her flawless smile and sweet voice, there was a thin, hidden tension. Camilla had fought through many difficult moments to secure her place as queen, and she understood better than anyone how fragile royal reputation could be. Anne, with her natural charisma and effortless charm, was a quiet threat. Hollywood had the power to turn people into global icons almost overnight. And if Anne's sincerity and powerful message won over audiences there, she could easily become more admired than the carefully built image Camilla and Charles had spent years trying to maintain. Deep inside, a small spark of jealousy flickered within Camilla, though she was highly skilled at hiding it behind polite smiles and calm words. Later that night, a small private dinner was held in one of the palac's intimate dining rooms. The candles flickered gently on the table, their warm glow bouncing off the crystal glasses. Soft laughter filled the room, and the conversation flowed smoothly among the guests. Charles and Camilla sat across from each other, exchanging light smiles that made them look like a perfectly united couple. Princess Anne, seated beside a visiting diplomat, spoke passionately about her new animal welfare projects. Her eyes shone with energy and purpose, and everyone around her listened closely. Charles felt his heart swell as he watched her. Her dedication, her strength, her sincerity, everything about her reminded him why she was one of the most admired royals. The evening was going perfectly, until Camilla softly rose to her feet. "Excuse me, I just need a little fresh air," she said, offering a graceful smile as she walked toward the balcony. As she moved away, Charles noticed something unusual. She was taking out a second phone, not the secure official device the palace used, but an older, plain, very ordinary-looking mobile phone. He had never seen it before. She turned slightly away, speaking into it in a very quiet voice he couldn't understand. Her expression slowly changed. The warm look she usually carried faded, replaced by a tight, serious face. A small wave of uneasiness washed over Charles. What phone was that, and who was she talking to? He searched his memory, but could not recall Camilla ever using such a device. An uncomfortable feeling settled in his chest, but he tried to push it away. Maybe it was something urgent she couldn't discuss openly, or maybe it was a personal matter. He could not accuse her of anything. He had no proof, but the questions in his mind grew heavier by the minute. When the dinner finally ended, the guests stood up, exchanging polite goodbyes as they left the room. Charles stayed back, waiting quietly at the end of the hallway for Camilla. She soon appeared, slipping her arm around his as if nothing had happened. Her smile was bright, perfect, and confident. "It was a lovely evening, wasn't it?" she said lightly, her voice as smooth as ever. But when Charles looked into her eyes, he noticed something different. The smile was dazzling, but the warmth behind it was gone. In its place was a cool, sharp, calculating glint, something he had never seen from her before. What was the reason behind Princess Anne's trip to Hollywood? Let's take a closer look. Princess Anne's Hollywood mission. The flight to Los Angeles had been planned with extreme care, with every single detail checked again and again. It took off from London on a cool autumn morning when the air felt fresh and the skies were clear. Soft golden sunlight came through the windows of the aircraft, giving Princess Anne's face a calm, warm glow. She had traveled long distances many times before, but this trip felt different from all the others. For once, she felt free from the usual pressure of royal ceremonies and strict expectations. She was not going to Hollywood to wave from a balcony or pose for formal photos. She was going because she had something meaningful to say, something she had quietly fought for over many years: the protection of animals that could not speak for themselves. In the United States, journalists were waiting eagerly, not because of her royal title, but because of her message. Several major American newspapers had already described her as the compassionate princess, calling her a true voice of kindness. Sitting in the peaceful first-class cabin, Anne looked out at the endless blue sky. Her heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. She believed deeply that honest, strong belief could open doors that seemed impossible to unlock. Her speech was ready, not designed to trick anyone, but to touch people's hearts. She imagined herself standing on a bright stage under sparkling chandeliers with thousands of people listening closely to her words. In her mind, it would be a moment where honesty and kindness rose above lies and confusion. But life, especially royal life, almost never moved in a simple straight line. As the aircraft flew smoothly at cruising height, a strange sound came from the wing, a soft scraping noise. It lasted only a second, but it was unusual enough to worry the crew. A few minutes later, the captain spoke over the intercom, calm and steady. He explained that there was a small technical issue, and as a safety measure, the plane would be heading to Iceland for an emergency landing and a careful inspection. Everything was handled quickly and professionally. There was no panic. Anne stayed calm as always, comforting the people around her and praising the crew's efficiency. But even with her composed face, she felt a small tight knot forming in her stomach. Something about the situation did not feel right. Back in London, while the plane touched down safely in Iceland, a different kind of disturbance exploded. Not from engines, but from the tabloids, almost as if they had planned it together. One sensational newspaper printed a bold front-page headline: "Princess Anne's fear of flying derails Hollywood trip." The article twisted the truth completely. It painted her as fragile and dramatic, claiming she could not handle a normal flight. It questioned her loyalty, her strength, and even her sense of duty. One particularly harsh paragraph mocked her, saying she had abandoned her responsibilities over a tiny bump in the sky. Within hours, a media storm erupted online. Hashtags like "afraid princess" and "lazy princess" spread across social platforms. People argued fiercely, many defended and pointing out her long record of hard work. But others grabbed onto the false story with excitement, especially those who had always been jealous of her achievements. They called her fake, saying she only pretended to care about important causes. In Iceland, Anne sat quietly and read the headlines. A wave of anger rushed through her. She knew she was no coward. She had never run from her duties, not once, and she could immediately see what was happening. This was not an accident. It was a targeted attack planned by someone who wanted to hurt her reputation. Her hands tightened around the newspaper until her knuckles turned pale. She desperately wanted to stand up and correct the lies. She wanted to call out the people spreading them, but she knew she could not. As a member of the royal family, she had to remain controlled and careful. Silence sometimes was her strongest shield. Taking a slow breath, she put the paper down. She refused to let cruel words or hidden enemies pull her away from her mission. She reminded herself why she was traveling in the first place, and she promised that no rumor, no lie, and no shadowy attack would stop her. But how did King Charles react to the situation? Let's find out. King Charles's reaction. Meanwhile, in Buckingham Palace, King Charles was reading the same reports, his anger rising. He knew his sister well. Fear of flying was the last thing anyone would associate with her. He had not forgotten the slight change in Camilla's expression the night before, and now a vague suspicion turned into a sharp, troubling unease, as King Charles had learned that things were often hidden beneath layers of deception. He refused to accept the tabloid's version and decided to find the truth himself. Late that night, he quietly summoned a trusted aviation engineer. The man arrived looking pale and uneasy and laid out a detailed report about the incident. Charles listened closely, then asked in a calm, measured voice, "Tell me honestly, was this really an accident, or was someone involved?" The engineer hesitated, his hands gripping the folder tightly. "Your Majesty, all I can say is this was unusual. It seems it was arranged to cause a delay, but not to create real danger." Charles studied him and saw the truth in his eyes. It wasn't fear of being blamed, it was terror of being silenced. Someone had pressured him in ways he dared not speak of. Pushing further would likely reveal nothing more. After the engineer left, Charles stayed alone in his study, staring at a framed photo of himself and Camilla, her smile bright and loving. Yet his thoughts returned to the tense look on her face the night before and the secret phone call on the balcony. The delayed flight, the slanderous articles about Anne, and the engineer's nervous evasiveness, all pieces fitting perfectly to be coincidence. He felt a dark presence inside his own home, a painful truth looming. From another room, Camilla's light laughter floated through the palace. In that moment, Charles realized that the quiet, hidden conflict within the family had only just begun. Tabloid whispers soon escalated into a storm. At the airport in Iceland, Princess Anne felt surrounded by an invisible pressing force. Fear and retreat were not her ways, but the injustice struck hard. Silence was not an option. Royal silence could be twisted into guilt. Her pride and honor would not allow her name to be dragged through mud without fighting back. She decided that as soon as her journey resumed, she would hold an unscheduled press conference in Hollywood with no delay or hesitation. Hundreds of journalists crowded the arrival hall, cameras flashing like a wall of lights. Anne, walking in a sharp but modest suit, kept her face calm and determined. She delivered a short, precise statement that directly addressed the rumors, hoping her honesty would cut through the lies. But even as she spoke, another storm brewed online. Back in London, Camilla arranged for paparazzi photos taken at the airport before Anne's departure to be released. From hidden angles, the pictures showed Anne in a brief moment of fatigue, shadows under her eyes, tension in her face. Alone, they seemed ordinary, but a major tabloid ran them with a cruel headline: "Weary Princess Fit for Royal Duty." The strike was precise. Almost immediately, "Lazy Princess" began trending on social media. Many people, especially young users, accepted the impression without questioning it. A single picture, a harsh headline, and a trending hashtag were enough to shape public opinion. Anne's reputation, built on years of work and compassion, wavered under the attack. Her words at the press conference, sincere and heartfelt, were drowned by the flood of images and cruel commentary. She felt the weight of fighting an unseen enemy. In London, King Charles watched the chaos with growing worry. The terrified engineer, the oddly timed news stories, and now these carefully timed photos, all pointed in a dangerous direction. He glanced at Camilla, smiling calmly among her guests, and felt a shiver run down his spine. Soon, a slim brown envelope arrived for Charles. No return address, no markings. Alone in his study, he opened it with a rising sense of dread. Inside was a small old recording device and a narrow strip of paper with a single line. An old friend of Princess Anne. Charles picked up the device, his fingers trembling, not from fear, but from a growing suspicion. He pressed play. A familiar voice filled the room, Camilla's, but it was not her usual warm tone. This voice was cold, sharp, calculating. She spoke to a go-between about a deal with a tabloid. "You must release the photos at exactly the right time," she instructed. "We need the public to see her as weak, idle, unfit for royal duty." Every word cut Charles like a knife. The recording detailed the plot, from manipulating the aircraft to leaking the least flattering photos of Anne. When the device went silent, Charles remained frozen, his hands shaking. The truth was worse than he had imagined. The woman he had trusted and loved had hidden a ruthless side. He realized Anne had been telling the truth. She was neither lazy nor fragile. She had been trapped in a planned conspiracy. Looking out at the palace grounds, bathed in moonlight, Charles began to form a plan. The deception needed to be exposed. The truth had to come out. Meanwhile, in Hollywood, Anne was exhausted. The criticism from Britain had followed her across the ocean. The press conference had not stopped the rumors. She felt isolated and under siege, yet Anne did not give up easily. She needed support outside the palace's influence. She found it in Evelyn Reid, an American journalist known for her integrity and fearlessness. Anne did not ask for sympathy. She revealed the truth. She spoke about her suspicions, the strange sequence of events, and the lies that had harmed her reputation. In a quiet cafe, she shared her work protecting animals, her love for nature, and the heartbreak of seeing her efforts twisted. She spoke openly, showing Evelyn who she truly was. Evelyn listened carefully, her eyes steady and thoughtful. She gave no promises, but Anne sensed a spark of hope. Why would Camilla want to sabotage Princess Anne's mission? Let's find out. Camilla's secret plot against Princess Anne. Meanwhile, in London, Camilla sat in her private sitting room, surrounded by her closest friends, sipping tea. Her voice had lost the usual calm, queenly composure. Instead, she sounded like a woman, nursing unseen hurts, bitter and wounded. She spoke about Princess Anne, claiming that Anne was jealous and plotting to steal the spotlight. Camilla painted herself as the innocent victim, a loyal wife caught in the middle of family drama. Her friends, devoted to her above all else, listened without question. Word of her complaints spread quickly through high society, stirring sympathy for Camilla and casting doubt on Anne's intentions. But the situation was no longer as Camilla imagined. King Charles now had the recording. The truth was clearer than ever. He was no longer just a trusting husband. He was a resolute king. He realized that to uncover the full story, he needed to meet the engineer who had been involved, not to scare him, but to protect him and hear everything. Charles arranged a secret meeting at a modest house on the outskirts of London. It was late at night. He wore simple clothes, leaving behind all signs of royalty, and approached the engineer quietly. When the man saw the king arrive alone, panic gripped him. Charles immediately reassured him, promising safety. Slowly, the engineer's fear began to ease. Then he spoke the truth. Camilla had given the orders. She had threatened his job and his family if he disobeyed. Following her instructions, he had tampered with the plane's engine, but only enough to cause a delay, not a disaster. Charles listened silently, fury burning inside him. He felt anger at the betrayal, shock at the cruelty, and disbelief at how meticulously Camilla had planned everything: the manipulated flight, the damning photos, the incriminating recording, and now this confession. After securing guarantees for the engineer and his family's protection, Charles left the small house, his heart heavy. Now, as the princess plans another trip to the United States, will Camilla succeed with her sabotage this time around? Let's find out. Anne's second trip. The endless wave of criticism from Britain had nearly crushed Princess Anne, yet she rose again, bolstered by a firm belief in her own honesty and the justice of her mission. With the quiet but steady support of Evelyn Reid, the brave American journalist, Anne planned a second trip to the United States. This time, her purpose was clear and unyielding: to restore her reputation and speak the truth openly. She believed that if she could step onto Hollywood soil, face the world, deliver her speech, and expose what had really happened, people would finally listen. This was no routine royal duty. It was a personal fight, a bold declaration of who she was and what she stood for. Meanwhile, in London, Camilla learned of Anne's new plans. A fierce storm of anger and jealousy rose inside her, higher than it ever had before. For the first time, she felt a real threat. If Anne succeeded in reclaiming her honor, Everything Camilla had carefully built around her own image would be destroyed. She could not allow that to happen. Camilla had gone too far down the dark path of her schemes. Now the only way forward was to carry them through to the grim end. In a dim hidden room, far from prying eyes, Camilla made another call to her intermediary. Her voice was quiet, but hard as steel as she gave new instructions. A small disruption would no longer do. She demanded that the plane's engine be sabotaged so badly that the flight would have to be cancelled completely. Camilla no longer worried about minor consequences. She wanted Anne to fail and fail spectacularly. On the day of Anne's second departure, the world watched with tense curiosity. The media buzzed non-stop, cameras ready to capture every moment. At Heathrow Airport, Anne stood tall, her posture straight even as her heart pounded with determination. She boarded the plane, her carefully written speech tucked into her bag, each line designed to cut through the lies. The aircraft rolled down the runway, engines roaring, and lifted into the sky. For a fleeting moment, a fragile spark of hope glimmered inside her. Then, as the plane climbed, a sharp tremor shook the cabin. The captain's voice came over the intercom, calm but firm, announcing yet another technical malfunction. The flight would have to return to the ground. The breaking news spread instantly. Princess Anne's flight cancelled due to engine failure. Standing in the airport, Anne stared at her phone, her hand trembling as she read the headlines, the lies, the plotted obstacles, the unseen forces behind them. It all seemed stronger than the truth. She had given everything, her stamina, her courage, her voice, but it felt as if she were fighting an enemy that could never be touched or seen. Amid the restless crowd and flashing cameras, Anne's legs gave way. She sank into a chair in the VIP lounge, burying her face in her hands. For the first time, real despair threatened to overwhelm her. Her confidence, her dreams, her public life, it all seemed to crumble before her. Unknown to Camilla, King Charles had already begun to act. In the quiet of the previous days, he had worked tirelessly, guided by the damning truth he had heard on the recording. He had ensured the engineer's safety, recognizing the man as a vital piece of the entire plot. Charles had sent trusted aides to protect the engineer and his family from further danger. Then carefully, he gathered every piece of evidence, encrypted messages between Camilla and her contact, the original recording with its chilling dialogue, and the engineer's full confession in a sworn signed statement. Together, these formed a tightly linked chain of betrayal, each part pointing back to a single source. The woman Charles had loved and trusted for years. How was the atmosphere in Hollywood like for Princess Anne? Let's find out. Anne's triumph at Hollywood. After enduring the hardest week of her life, Princess Anne felt a surprising new strength rising inside her. Her phone buzzed with a short, mysterious message from Charles. "Come to Hollywood. I'll be there." She didn't fully understand what he meant, but she trusted her brother completely. Charles never made empty gestures. If he wanted her in Hollywood, it had to be important. With the quiet support of a loyal aide and the fearless journalist, Evelyn Reid, Anne boarded another flight to the City of Stars. This time, the journey was strangely peaceful. No odd vibrations, no unexpected delays. She felt a calm she hadn't known in weeks, the heavy weight of public criticism lifting slightly. Her mind focused on one thing, speaking the truth. As the plane landed in Los Angeles, the bright California sun streamed through the windows like a promise of a fresh start. Stepping onto the tarmac, she was no longer the exhausted, worn woman of days before. Her face was steady, her posture strong, a warrior ready for the final battle. The Hollywood venue was stunning, a grand hall draped in elegant fabrics, glowing softly in golden light. Thousands had come, many skeptical, influenced by endless rumors. But when Anne stepped onto the stage, she didn't act like a distant royal. She was a woman who had been hurt but refused to break. Her voice was steady, emotional, and full of honesty. She didn't dwell on the slander against her. Instead, she spoke her truth, the obstacles she had faced, the years she had devoted to protecting animals, and the importance of integrity and kindness in a world too often ruled by lies. She mentioned betrayal, not to blame, but to show that despite her scars, she would never abandon her values. "Justice will find its way," she declared, her words echoing through the hall. Her speech moved the audience deeply. Some wiped away tears. Before them stood not a fragile princess, but a determined woman defending her beliefs. Almost instantly, her speech spread across social media. Clips went viral. Hashtags like "Stand with Anne" and "Truth Prevails" surged, drowning out negativity and turning public opinion sharply in her favor. Back in London, Camilla prepared her response. She held a press conference in a luxurious palace drawing room, speaking carefully chosen words about misunderstandings and rumors, trying to portray herself as innocent and wronged. She hoped her calm composure would sway the public once again. So, what do you think about King Charles's reaction to Camilla's shocking sabotage of Princess Anne's Hollywood flight? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.